where, you get these people up on stage and they have absolutely no idea what they're doing, and they're clicking around like chicken and don't remember any of it afterwards.
Yeah, it's quite scary, really.
Yeah, and it really is, if you watch it, is handing over control to somebody else.
Mm-hmm. And also, there's like, how does that happen? How does someone gain so much control over another person?
Exactly.
Like, what is the going-ons?
So if that's what you understand from hypnotherapy, it's not surprising that you might have some reservations against it. But clinical hypnotherapy is very, very different.
Because that's hypnosis, right? And clinical hypnotherapy is hypnotherapy. Is hypnotherapy. It's very, very different.
So in hypnotherapy, what we're actually doing is getting you down to, so our mind operates on different levels and on different waves. So we call them alpha waves, we call them beta waves. Most of our conscious waking life is in beta. Where we think we're rationally making decisions and we're aware of what we do, why we're doing certain things.
Like the conversation we're having right now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But then we have alpha states, and the best example of alpha states, and we do go into these alpha states in our waking moments as well. The best example I can think of is I used to drive home from Stamford. So I used to work in Stamford. I'd drive home. It was a half an hour drive. And sometimes I'd come home and have no recollection whatsoever of that journey because my mind was completely elsewhere.
That happens to so many of us.
Right? And your subconscious mind has just got you home anyway, right? It's done the job. That state is almost like hypnosis. That's your alpha state taking over. You also see that with children, and this is why I feel TV is such a big problem for children. When you park a child in front of a TV for, hours, what you see is the child will become completely absorbed in what's going on that TV program that sometimes they don't even hear you calling them. You call them several times. You have to tap them before they realize. I know I used to do this as a child. And that's because they've gone into that alpha state where they're completely absorbed. And what happens in the alpha state is you're much more open to suggestions. That's why if your children are watching things on TV that are perhaps not wholesome and they're in that alpha state, they're going to absorb those things like a sponge. And we do that generally even as adults.
Yeah.
So what we do in hypnotherapy is we go down into that alpha state. You're still aware of what's going on around you. Often people will be aware if the phone rings or the doorbell rings or whatever. But they are less critical. They are less resistant to what's coming up, and they don't have the layers of judgment sitting there that, if you ask a person a question, why are you depressed? Their own judgment around that doesn't come up. They answer what truly is the cause of their depression. And then we're able to work with that. And because it's such a suggestible state, we're able to make better suggestions to them. We uncover the beliefs that are holding them back, the beliefs that are feeding this depression, and we turn them around, we transform them into more helpful beliefs. And then those beliefs are accepted in that state much better than they would be accepted in a beta conscious waking state.
So, serious question. So, if I hypnotized you and asked you for all your savings, are you telling me you're not going to give them to me?
Definitely not.
So we're totally aware of the conversations that are happening. So it's a little bit similar to REM state of sleep. So as you're all aware, we've got, 4 stages of sleep: awake, light, REM and deep. REM is the rapid eye movement state of sleep. And in this sleep, this is where we dream. So our mind is awake, but our nerves and muscles are asleep, which is why bodily we're asleep. So when you're experiencing hypnotherapy, it's something similar to that. I mean, you won't be asleep like REM, but the body is going through a similar experience, and which is why it's easy to access. Okay, so thank you for explaining that. Now that we can ward off all those doubts, hopefully. But if you do have any questions about hypnotherapy or anything that we've mentioned, please do call us in on 01733 602 133, or you can text on 07411 191062, or you can comment on the live stream on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, or Twitch. I've got no idea what Twitch is, but I know a lot of you millennials do. And it's fine, we can work it out. And the story that I wanted to share, the case study that I wanted to share, is one that I was talking to about with one of my colleagues is migraine. So, and one of the common causes of migraine that we've noticed is not having enough attention. So this client she's probably in her 50s now, and she's very high ranking in her job, very successful, is married, very middle class, kind of like home, car, lifestyle. But from time to time, she gets a lot of migraines. And then when this client was taken into sort of the subconscious state, when the therapy occurred, what came up is when this client has two sisters, and when she was young, she felt like she wasn't getting enough attention. Her sisters were getting more attention. So she would get a migraine for the attention. And as she was much older and she gave birth to her son, and she felt like she was doing everything by herself, she felt like she had no support. So what came up in that scene is that she was unsupported. And so the migraine, her friend, came along to support her because it gave her a reason to ask for help. Because someone who's a high flyer, independent, very strong leadership woman working in business, she has to carry this, I don't want to call it a facade,